Welcome to Ringsiders. I'm Jamie, joined again by Callum. How are you doing, Callum?
I'm great, Jamie. Thank you.
And today we have a very special guest. I'm mega excited for this one. Former Triple X Impact Champion. He is the one true Ace Austin. How are you, sir?
Well, I was enjoying a nice down here in Mississippi, and then you had to go and mention former champion and upset me a little bit. So,
Jamie,
hopefully this conversation can go a little better now.
You've got to stop pissing off the guests as soon as we do the introduction. Like, this is becoming a thing.
I'll leave the room. I'll just leave you two guys to go ahead and do this.
So we can see quite clearly right now you're living the life in Mississippi. Looks like it's good weather there. Swimming pool. You've got looks like you're on some kind of flirting thing. Life's going pretty good for the one true Ace at the moment. Then
it sure is. I mean, I of course prefer being in the ring on a regular basis. Today is in fact Saturday, which is a day where I would typically be wrestling. So, but I can't complain about a pool. I do love a good pool.
I was going to say, how have you been passing the time? But quite clearly, this is what you've been doing, right? Living the life.
Well, before I went down to, I went down to we just went down to Mississippi just like 2 days ago now. But before that, for the last like 2.5 months, I've just been stuck in Ohio, and the Ohio weather's not so great. So I'm not sitting outside in Ohio, but I've been playing lots of video games. I haven't had much time to play video games since I started wrestling. That kind of, that's just obviously not a priority. So I've been catching up on some video games that I wanted to get on, and watching some movies that I maybe see. I got to watch the whole Star Wars series. Incredible! It's unbelievable work. Masterpiece. The Star Wars is.
I'm a massive Star Wars fan, and as soon as Disney Plus came out, the first thing I did was go to the Star Wars section just to see what they've got, and they've got the entire Clone Wars series. I don't know if you've seen that before.
I haven't. So when we were watching the Star Wars movie, I had a nice guide. My lady was guiding me through the Star Wars series, and because she's a big fan. When we got to the Clone Wars, we were like, yeah, we can watch the whole thing, or we can just, kind of move on and come back around to it. So we're going to come back around to the Clone Wars for sure. Because we watched a couple episodes, and it was awesome. I enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah, it fills in a lot of the time between episodes 1 and 2. So if you have Star Wars films, it connects a lot of the dots in the series. But yeah, I think it's my favorite thing.
I watched a Snapchat thing the other day about like Darth Maul's story, and a lot of that's explained in the Clone Wars stuff. That made me even more interested. I definitely want to watch the Clone Wars and get.
Yeah, because if you think Darth Maul died in episode 1, spoilers, he didn't. So definitely check it out, man.
I've never seen Star Wars, so I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah, Jamie's one of these people who's never seen Star Wars, and he brags about it like it's some kind of achievement. Oh, I've never seen Star Wars. All right, good for you. Like, who cares?
I was on the same boat up until a couple of weeks ago.
There we go. So fuck you, Callum.
Yeah, but at least Ace Austin has now come round to watching it, and he enjoys it. You don't even give it the time of day, Jamie.
I will watch it at some point.
All right. You got TikTok the other day.
Was awesome. I enjoyed the Mandalorian.
Oh, the Mandalorian. Yeah, the Mandalorian's really good. But
yeah, that was very well done.
I mean, everything on Disney Plus is pretty good, if you ask me. It came at the right time because as soon as lockdown came here and we were told to stay inside, that was the day Disney Plus launched in the UK. So I was like, that's perfect timing because all we've really done is watch Disney Plus since then. And I was like,
so funny story about. I just got a bee landed on me. Funny story about. So I went to the UK for the first time not too long ago for DLT wrestling, and while I was there, I brought my laptop over, and the first night we got there, I fired up Netflix, and I don't know if you guys have watched The Good Place at all.
Yes.
On Netflix. Yeah, I love The Good Place. Awesome. So I watched all of those seasons, and then I come to the UK, and it was like, it said like new episodes, and I was like, oh, this is awesome. I didn't know there was a new season of The Good Place. So I started watching the new season, and then I come home, and I'm like, where's this? Where are the episodes? I didn't realize that, like, when I went to the UK, like, the domain switched, and the library was different.
Yeah, dude, it's the worst thing.
You guys have access to the last season of The Good Place, and I can't watch the rest of it yet.
You've got the much better Netflix though than we do. You've got like twice as much content than the UK version.
That's fair. I only spent like 3 days in the UK, so I didn't spend too much time on Netflix exploring. So can't argue.
Where did you get to in the UK? Did you do any sightseeing while you was here, or was it just wrestling?
We were in Liverpool. That's where the show was. So they took us around and showed us, just kind of what was. We didn't really we didn't travel very far or anything, but they just they showed us some of the cool stuff that was around Liverpool. We were right in a college town, right near the university that's there.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Liverpool's a good city.
To see this we got to see this really cool church that the ceiling was had fallen out. I can't remember what the name of the church was. There's some really cool pictures there. There was the groundskeeper was a funny old man. That was really neat meeting him.
Did you
I
see
think a lot of people go to Liverpool. It's all about the Beatles.
That's what I was going to ask. Yeah.
That's obviously where the Beatles.
We saw the Beatles statue. We didn't go into the Beatles like museum thing, but we took pictures of the statue.
Yeah, it is a cool city. I've been a couple of times. It is a cool city. Obviously, the history of the Beatles is pretty much the main thing they've got going for them, and they've got a decent. They've got a decent soccer team as well, but apart from that, it's
Are you
not
wanting to come back sometime when all this is over? Are you wanting to come back to the UK, make a bigger go of it this time, stay for a bit longer?
Oh yeah, I wanted to. I've been wanting to come to the UK for a long time, especially in my career. One of my mentors was David Starr, and he eventually moved over to the UK, and he's very big in the English wrestling scene, and so that definitely piqued my interest. He taught me a little bit about that, and I wanted to do that back then, but I like to just play my opportunities where they lie, so that just never really came up until TNT finally got a hold of me, and I think that went well enough that TNT is definitely going to have me back, and hopefully like a little more. It's hard with doing Impact TV and having to try. I can't go over there for 2 months at a time because I can't miss taping. So
so you looked in really for a week at a time.
Yeah, I'm really hoping Impact comes over to the UK again sometime soon. That'd be really cool.
I would love that, man. We used to be the biggest fan base for Impact. They used to do every January. They used to come over every January.
Still are, honestly. That's a lot more interactions with my Impact content on Twitter with UK fans than anything else.
Well, I've been saying for a while, obviously, the wrestling world at the moment, that you've got AEW, you've got NXT, you've got NWA coming about. And I keep saying this, I said to Callum the other day, I feel like people are forgetting just how good Impact is at the moment. You guys are putting out some fantastic stuff at the moment. And I think it's going under the radar. And it's a pleasure to watch Impact at the moment.
Yeah, it's a classic case of people just. It's just the old reputation, nobody, and of course the current social media culture of just negativity. Nobody can just spread positivity about stuff. It's got to be all negative. So everybody's just talking about all the old stuff that's just irrelevant now. The roster's different. The management's different. Our platform's different. Our channels. Everything about Impact is different right now than when it was in that negative light. And I think more people are starting to see it now, and I think if we just keep headstrong the way that we are, there's no way people won't notice.
If you ask me, I feel like Impact's done a better job out of most of the promotions for doing these empty arena shows. The way they've handled it's been incredible. Like, it doesn't seem like it's an empty arena when you're watching Impact, but when you're watching Raw and SmackDown, no offense to them because they have done a great job too of doing these shows. But for Impact, for me, I feel like they've handled it better and it's been presented better.
I'm glad you said that, because I mean, a lot of us feel like that too. It's not just because we work there, because we keep our eyes on everything, and it's just like our setup is awesome. It doesn't look awkward with the way that we've set the empty arena thing up. It's all, the camera's always filled with like motion and movement. There's no like you don't look around and see anything that's like kind of awkwardly spaced. And for me personally, like doing the empty arena shows, it I mean, I like to, look at everything and I try to look at everything in a positive way. And doing the empty arena thing is just another way of like elevating us as performers, honestly, because like if you can't handle performing in an empty arena like that, then, maybe you got some work to do. It's like true pros can really handle that empty arena setting. And for me, it made me have to act differently in the ring for sure, because when you're not getting a response, you have to change how you're performing, because like usually we perform with the cameras in mind and with the crowd in mind, and we're trying to get responses from people. But when there's no one there to respond, what do? So for me, what I did was I tried to keep making noise. Like if you watch my empty arena, if you watch my match from Rebellion with Willie Mack, and any of the TV we have going forward, if you keep watching, you'll notice like I constantly tried to make noise so that there was because one of the things I noticed when I was watching like Raw and everything, when they first started doing the empty arena shows, was just that awkward silence when like somebody would get slammed and then there'd be no noise and the commentators wouldn't be talking and the people in the ring wouldn't be talking, and there would just be that awkward, weird silence. And
I know you
kind of looking at each other like,
so awkward. It was almost like we were watching a sitcom, like some kind of awkward sitcom where there's an awkward silence afterwards. And it made me cringe a little bit, even though it wasn't their fault. It was just like, that's too quiet. So yeah, I'm glad you brought that up.
For me, like our commentary team, I think has been doing a great job of like kind of keep bouncing back and forth between each other to just fill that space. And then for me, at least anyway, when I did my matches, like I was constantly trying to make noise, like whether I was getting beat up or whether I was doing the beating up, like always making noise, always trying to say something or just emote something. Constantly filling that space.
Yeah, like that is something that a lot of wrestlers say, especially like the older school ones. Like it's always good to make noise. It's always good to be heard. And I'm guessing that's never been more true than in an empty arena. Like you're playing 100% towards the camera. Like you said, you usually play towards the crowd and the camera, whereas now you're playing completely to the camera, and that changes the dynamic of a match, really, doesn't it? Do you feel like you're having to wrestle differently now? Like, is the style of match different that you're having?
No, not necessarily. Matches are always situational, at least for me anyway. I don't ever look at like a match the same. I don't ever look at two matches the same. When I'm going into a match, it's all situational. I just try to play off of whatever we got going on at the moment. That was another one of those awkward things too, I think, is like when people are like, when you walk out for your like entrance and you look around, like, what are you looking at? Why are you looking around like there's people to connect with? There's not.
Yeah.
Now in wrestling, they teach you to prioritize the cameras a lot, because your worldwide audience is a little more important than the live audience. The live audience is already there. They're already engaged. You need to engage the people that are watching through the cameras. So now more than ever, it's like focus on those and really pull that in, because that's all we've got now. That's all we've got.
You need to stop them changing the channel. Like you said, it's they're more important. They're the ones who could change to something else that's on TV. It's up to you right now to make sure they don't.
Yeah, and the crowd doesn't exist without the people that are watching. You have to watch it on TV before you're interested enough to go to the show.
Yeah. So what do you feel like the biggest challenge has been so far for like these empty arena style shows? Has there been anything that you've found like a bit challenging to do, or? Has it just all been pretty good?
Probably the just the wrestling itself, you know, because it's like there's the adrenaline isn't the same, you know, so the ring feels different, the impact feels different, everything that we're doing, you know, you can feel it a little more, because like when you go to training, like when you first start training as a wrestler and they teach you, you know, to how to bump and hit the ground, and they bump you around so much so that your body gets used to just taking that abuse and taking that abuse. That way, you know, and then you don't even think about it once you're in front of a crowd. You know, the last thing that any wrestler thinks about is like the bumps and the bruises when there's a crowd there, because you know you have that adrenaline, you're making that connection, and you're having fun, and there's just always something, you know, going through you. But when there's nobody there, it's more, you know, you have to think a little more. You have to be a little more strategic, and then just feel everything just, you know, that much more when it hits you.
Yeah, like you said, the adrenaline is the painkiller, right? Usually. So when you go and have that, it's going to be different. You're going to feel the bumps a little bit more.
Yeah.
I think one thing that threw me off with the Raw and SmackDown empty arena shows at first was, as we alluded to earlier, they were reacting to a crowd that wasn't there, and they were going, "Come on!" like trying to get this crowd into it, and there was nobody there, and I think that made me cringe a little bit. I was like, just let's not pretend there's anyone in the crowd. There's no one there.
Yeah. You're not, yeah, that's not. That just makes it so much more hokey. Is trying to you know, I think it would have been. I haven't seen anybody do this. But the funniest thing for me would be if I saw somebody start like clapping with no crowd. Why are you clapping? Nobody's clapping with you. Hopefully nobody does that, because that would just be
do that
sick.
next time on Impact.
I might do that just to be funny. Yeah, just as a rib.
I think, yeah, let's dare him right now, right? You've got to do that. You've got to do that. You've got to start a clap in an empty arena. Right? We'll be watching.
Being the bad guy, I think that would maybe work for me. You know, like,
yeah, I think it would. I think it would work more for a bad guy.
On the baby face, come on, get a little back going for the baby face.
We were saying earlier about you coming over to the UK and maybe coming back next year or something when all this is over. I think there is a lot of interest in getting a talent like yourself here, because UK wrestling's changed a lot in the last 5 years. We've got some amazing promotions here, and the people that we speak to, like the other our peers, other podcasters, and other people in the UK, they're all fans of Impact, and a lot of them are fans of your work. Like Kurt Johansson, who does Ringsiders with us, he couldn't be here tonight. He's a massive fan of your work, and he really did want to do this interview. And he's quite gutted that he couldn't do it. But there's a lot. You do actually have quite a lot of fans over here. So I don't think you'd struggle to find work if you wanted to come over for longer. Like I could see you fitting in with somewhere like Progress, for example.
Oh yeah, that Progress is definitely on the list. When I set up the date to do the TNT show, I wanted to try to set some more stuff up, but the date that they wanted to use me was just like I didn't have enough time around it to try to really set anything else up.
Right.
Whereas hopefully another time I will be able to believe easier.
Well, that's it.
I got some sunscreen running in my eyes. I gotta wipe my eyes off.
I can see you in Progress, definitely.
And WrestleGate. Got to stay safe. You've got to keep the sunscreen on.
Yeah, it was running in my eyes. It was burning.
It stings, right?
Yeah, it does.
I don't use it. I'm ginger. I just stay out of the sun. I just burn. I have a picture somewhere when I went to Hawaii a few years ago, and I have a picture somewhere, and I look like that starfish from SpongeBob SquarePants.
Patrick Star.
Yeah. I avoid the sun at all costs.
But yeah, I think it would be cool to see you in like a Progress style promotion, or if you've heard of WrestleGate Pro, I think that's another.
WrestleGate.
Yeah, WrestleGate in Nottingham. They're a really good upcoming.
They debuted last year, didn't they?
Yeah, they did a little bit of work with AEW last year before they did the first pay-per-view, and that really put them on the map. And since then, they've been building a lot of momentum, and it's like strong style but character-based wrestling. And I think that's somewhere you could see a talent like yourself. So if you do get to come over, check out WrestleGate in Nottingham. But I think there's a lot of places that we could see Ace Austin. Is there anyone in particular that you want to mix it up with in the UK?
Progress, definitely. We talked about Rev Pro. That's another one. Just like, I go back to David Starr, for example. Like there a lot of the places that he's working seem like he's not the type to really do anything short of like the best places. So anywhere that's good enough for David Starr, I'm cool to do too.
And is it the same when it comes to the people you want to wrestle in the UK? You just open to wrestling whoever is the best over here, or is there anyone that you're a fan of?
Well, I mean, a lot of the guys that I wanted to have matches with ended up getting picked up for NXT when they started doing the NXT UK stuff. So I'm not too familiar. I'm not too familiar with the whole scene right now. I got to work with some really cool guys when I did TNT.
Yeah.
I had a great match with LJ Cleary. That was really fun. Yeah, definitely the best. I'm nothing short of the best for me. Yeah. It was really awesome to get to bring the X Division Championship over with me when I did. I'm glad that I got to do that before, all this happened and before I lost it, of course, at Rebellion, because that was that meant a lot to me to be able to bring that over. It felt real special.
Yeah, and can I just say that's one of the most beautiful looking belts in wrestling right now. Now it's the red X Division. I always loved the old X Division title, but I think I might prefer this one. It's just such a nice looking belt.
Yeah, I agree, and it fits so well on me. It just fit me.
What's your plan to get it back then? I mean, you said earlier.
I'm sure you'll have it back.
What's your plan to get it back? Jamie said you're a former X Division champion. You need to sort that out.
You don't have to remind him that I said that.
I'm throwing you under the bus this time, Jamie.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Well, technically, I'm at the back of the line now because I did go after the rematch clause and I was unsuccessful but I'm ever the opportunist, and it only took me 8 months inside of the company to become X Division champion. So now I got some little bit different goals. Okay, I was the second youngest X Division champion in the company's history as a whole. That includes TNA. Second youngest champion to ever hold the belt. So my goal now, I have until February of next year, I will become the youngest Impact World Champion of all time.
Oh, okay.
That's where we're going.
Yeah, definitely. I'd be fully for that, mate. Like, it seemed like you had such a meteoric rise. Like, I remember you debuting in Impact, and I was like, oh, who's this guy? I hadn't heard of you before, but I thought instantly, just by your look, I thought this is someone I'm probably going to be a fan of. And when I saw you wrestle, I was like, oh, he's really cool. But it seemed like really quickly, you just went from debuting to like instantly in a good feud, in a title picture. You just like, I don't know, there wasn't like much build. You just came in and you took over. And is that your plan now for doing the heavyweight division too? You want to go up to the World Heavyweight Championship? Like, obviously that's your goal as a wrestler. You want to be the World Heavyweight Champion.
Yeah. And I want to be the youngest of all time. I want my name. I don't want my name just as part of the chronological order in history. I don't want to just be number whatever world champion. I want to be the youngest world champion of all time. That's something people won't forget. You can't forget it. 23 years old.
Yeah, and you're not going to get any younger than that. Because
no, definitely not.
And you have just made me feel very, very old. Thank you for that.
Jamie, how old are you?
I'm 36 years old, Callum. Thank you for telling the world.
Hey, you'd still be one of the youngest world heavyweight champions, just not the youngest.
No, I'm back in this. My money's all on this. Because before you rudely interrupted me at the start, I wasn't just going to say former triple X champion. I was going to say future heavyweight champion, but you cut me off. So I'm throwing all my money behind
maybe
it.
you could be the oldest champ instead, the oldest champ in history instead. How
Why the
about
hell
that?
not?
Maybe go for that.
I'll try my best. I'm just fat and old now, so I can't.
So, is there any update on when things might be a little bit more back to normal for you guys in wrestling, or is it just like a bit up in the air at the moment? Do you know when it might be a bit more normal
I think,
for Impact?
as far as indie wrestling goes, like indie wrestling thrives on the audience. Obviously, it pays the bills, and it's what creates the buzz and what makes people, what makes companies, important. So indie wrestling will only exist again when crowds are allowed to come.
Yeah.
But for those of us that are doing television, Impact, AEW, and WWE, it's we still get to do it, obviously in the empty arena sense. So I think a lot of people are looking kind of at the WWE because like we're getting such mixed information from like the government or whatever you want to call it, just as generalizing, such mixed information, and like nobody knows for sure when stuff's going to open back up, especially because different states are like making those decisions kind of on their own. Like I know like some states have already started kind of opening small businesses back up and stuff like that, and just trying to keep the amount of people gathering at low numbers. So as far as everything else goes, I keep my head, in the wrestling bubble more than anything. I don't really pay much attention to politics or anything like that. So it looks like the WWE is planning on still doing these empty arena shows for a pretty good amount of time. So if that's any indication, it seems like we're not really at the end of this yet.
No.
Not quite.
Yeah, because
I think we're quite far away from having arenas with thousands and thousands of people. You're looking towards the end of the year. My money, but you never know. You never know. I miss the fans. I miss putting shows on and listening to the Raw and the crowd. But you've got to be safe. I think it's going to be towards the end of the year when we start maybe getting people into shows. Like you say, it's money in the bank tomorrow night. It's going to be an empty Money in the Bank. It's going to be another weird one.
And as unfortunate as that is, I think that trying to look at things in a more positive way. I think that it'll be a good thing in the end. This break, this downtime, I think it'll make people more excited to come back to wrestling, and it'll kind of like there'll be like another resurgence of like of just a wrestling boom and a wrestling popularity again because people want to get back to it, and it'll be a time for new stars to be made and current stars to kind of make their name, and so hopefully it'll end up a good thing. People will be eager to get back to it, and then and it'll fill crowds, and it'll make things things will go back to normal eventually.
And a lot of people have always said there should be an off-season in wrestling, and whether that's true or not, this is kind of like forced an off-season for a lot of wrestlers. So I think it's kind of like getting to trial whether or not that's a good idea for some promotions. And
and like I said earlier, that's how it's been for me personally. I've only been wrestling for 5 years, but in those 5 years, I've never once ever felt like, oh, I need a break. I got to take a weekend off, or I got to take 2 weekends off. Never. I have constantly, if I don't have a booking, I find a booking. If I don't find one for myself, I'll jump in a car with somebody else that's got a booking. Like, I'm always going I always have to be a part of something. And that's what helped me kind of with that meteoric rise before I made it to Impact. What put me on Impact's radar and what put me on a lot of people's radars, 2018 was a great year for me. 2018, I got the chance to do, I worked for MLW, I did their TV program, and then I did WWE 205 Live, and then I did Impact. And then 2018 was awesome, and I had so many options in front of me, and just anywhere that I could go because of my work ethic and because of people knew me. You'd see me in one state, and then literally the next night, I would be thousands of miles away somewhere else doing something else.
Yeah.
So for 5 years, it's been like that constantly. No time off, just go, go, go. And I never felt like I needed the time off. My body hasn't really run down or anything yet. But this has just been kind of a perfect excuse to do that, to take a little bit of time for rest and recovery, because that is, of course, important, but it's never been my priority. Wrestling has been my priority. So this is just, it's a forced off season, and it you can treat it, you can treat it as like as a bad thing, or you can treat it like me and just,
make the most of it.
Do the best you can.
Talking about MLW, obviously we get MLW in the UK, and I love it. I watch it. We get it every Monday night, and that's where I first saw you. You actually were the reason I started watching MLW. I saw you on MLW on a Monday night, and I was like, this guy's awesome. What was it like working there? Because I think they're another company that seems to be going. They don't get as much notice as the bigger companies, and they're doing fantastic work. What's your thoughts on MLW? Was it fun working there?
It was a lot of fun working there. I really enjoyed it. It was very different than anywhere else I had been. Everywhere that I've been so far has been pretty different. WWE is very high stakes, and it's very stressful back there because of the way that everything is. And Impact, like a lot, if you listen to anybody talk about like the backstage stuff at Impact, it's like the environment is so good. Everybody's very supportive of each other, and everybody, the term, a family gets overused so much, but it really is like that with Impact. Everybody's there for we all have a common goal. We all just want to elevate our spot, and the only way we can elevate ourselves is to come together and elevate our brand. That's what that's what ended up turning me towards Impact in the first place, was just like the environment. I'm 23 years old. I'm patient. I've got nothing but time ahead of me. I didn't want to just throw myself into the WWE right away in the most stressful place I could when I'm still like growing and learning.
That makes sense.
And then with MLW, it was so different. They did tapings differently than Impact, especially with their setup, and the roster was always like the cool thing about MLW was it was like they had their core roster guys that were like contracted guys, and then they would constantly like mix in people from not only the areas that they were going, but also just like anybody that they were interested in. Like they brought me in, not under contract or anything, for a Chicago show when I was when I was living in Ohio. So I did the 5-hour drive and got to debut there, and they liked working with me, so I continued to do that. And they were fine. They were cool with, they made me an offer at first, but they were fine with when I eventually accepted the Impact offer. They were fine with continuing to work together. And it wasn't until I really got to the X Division Championship that I couldn't do both anymore, after I won the X Division title. But that's definitely not out of the question, like if and when the time comes, I will absolutely go back and do some MLW stuff for sure. Those guys were a lot of fun, and it was very easy to work with them, and there wasn't really anybody that was too big for their britches there,
That's good. Yeah, like you said, it's like a family atmosphere backstage, and I think that's important when everyone's got the same goal. Like you're gonna get egos everywhere you work, but some places more than other. So if you're working in a place where everyone's just trying to elevate each other as well as themselves, it's only going to be good for the company, right? Like you want the company to do well because you'll do better in the long run.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, Oh yeah, I've just one thing I've got to ask you before I forget is.
Go on. It better not be what I think you're going to ask.
Oh no, I'm not gonna. All right, I think you think I'm going to ask him about the Yorkshire pudding, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so Ace, I don't know how familiar you are with British food, but have you ever heard of the Yorkshire pudding?
No, I haven't.
Okay, so we ask every guest. It kind of became a running joke when we spoke to Zicky Dice, and we've asked everybody
I love
since.
Zicky Dice.
Yeah, because we asked him if he's
good friend of mine.
We asked him if he'd heard of the Yorkshire pudding, and he was like, "No, but I like rice pudding." And we asked everybody since, so we thought we'd ask you as well. Ace, what's your favourite type of pudding? Because no doubt I'll tag you in a tweet and try and set up a match with you and Zicky over some kind of pudding on a pole match.
I don't think I've ever had rice pudding. I like sugar. I like sugar. I prefer sugar free of any kind. So as long as there's no sugar in it, I'm definitely interested. What's my favorite? Oh man, I don't know.
See, we're asking the hard hitting questions, right? This is why people watch these interviews.
I've probably only ever had like chocolate or vanilla pudding. So probably a good sugar free chocolate pudding.
Okay, well, I'll tag Zicky in that, and we'll get his thoughts on your choice of pudding, because he said he was going to fight the last person that we said about. He was like, "That's a terrible pudding. I'm going to fight them." But if you're friends, then, you might be all right. But yeah, that wasn't actually what I was going to ask.
I mean, let's not forget, he's going to fight my dad. I mean,
he's going to knock your dad out.
He's going to fight my dad and rip my dad's mustache off his face and beat him up with his own mustache. I mean, all of a pudding.
Zicky's a cool dude, right? Like,
all of a pudding.
He's outlandish is the real thing for Ziggy. He's one of the most outlandish people I've ever met. Through and through. He's a wild character. I love him.
It's not a character, is it? It doesn't seem like he's having to pretend to be anybody. That's just him.
Nope, he just has to turn it on. I mean, that's him.
He is fun. But I know, Callum, you did have a question from Kurt, though, didn't you?
I did. Yeah, so Kurt, who does Ringsiders with us, he couldn't be here tonight, but he has a question for you anyway. And he said, your character shows a lot of resemblance to X-Men's Gambit with the card and the cane. Is that something you looked for inspiration? If so, why Gambit?
So it wasn't at first. It actually was an accident. It was one day. The Ace character came about when I was like a young kid. That was just an idea that I had. I wanted to be the Ace. I was like, I got kids into wrestling. Wrestling wasn't super big where I grew up.
Yeah.
So most of the people that liked wrestling were like my friends that I got into wrestling. So my best friend at the time, we had very loose plans to become a tag team. We were, in elementary school. So we were like, we're going to be a tag team. We're going to be tag team champions. We're going to be, and I always liked putting this tattoo on my character in the video games for some reason. It was just something I liked doing. So I looked at the tattoo one day and I was like, oh, we'll be the Ace of Spades. That'll be our tag team. And I want to be Ace. I don't know why. That was just the random idea. And then it just stuck with me. It was a seed that was planted, and I just kept going with the Ace thing always. And then when I eventually started training and kind of putting the pieces together for it, purple and blue are my favorite colors. So I picked purple and blue as a color scheme just because I liked it. And the card thing, the Ace up the sleeve, I thought like I'd never seen anybody do something like that before. So I was like, I want that to be a metaphor for, who I am, just like ever the opportunist. And I don't give up. I've always got something else up my sleeve to do.
Yeah.
So that, and then when I started wrestling, people would come up to me and be like, "Oh, I love the Gambit thing. I love the Gambit look." And I was like, "What?" and then I looked at it and I was like, "Well, they're not wrong. It really is like that, isn't it?" And then So I've worked at Hot Topic since I was 14 years old. I got a job at Hot Topic when I was 14 years old. It was my first job, and it was the only job I ever had besides wrestling. Was working at Hot Topic. So I was working there, and they were always super supportive of the goal of to be a wrestler, obviously, and I always worked with great people, and it's just a job I could never complain about that job. Very easy job, simple retail, so working at Hot Topic one day, I saw this purple, big jacket. And I was like, oh, I didn't have an entrance jacket at the time or anything. And I was working with the Combat Zone out in Jersey at that time. And they had been trying to convince me to like update my look. They're like, you should wear, I used to wear like biker shorts. And they're like, you should wear trunks because you've got very large legs. And you're a good-looking kid, so you should switch to trunks. It would be a better look for you. And you should get some kind of an entrance gear, something to make your entrance pop a little more. And I looked at this jacket, and I was like, I mean, people are going to think Gambit again with this jacket, but the jacket's so cool, I can't say no. So screw it. Why not? Why not go for the Gambit thing? There's no other comic book wrestlers. So why not? I love comic books, and part of the reason I wanted to be a wrestler in the first place is because I love superheroes so much, and I just wanted to be a real-life superhero. So the jacket came along, and then so that was a piece of the puzzle again, the jacket. And then a little bit after that, musical theater's something that I've always been big into, and if it wasn't wrestling, musical theater's probably the route that I would have gone, if not wrestling. When I was doing, I think it was the year after I graduated high school, I went back. I was still living in my hometown, so I went back to help out with the musical program. I wanted to be supportive as best I could, so I went back to just help out with like backstage stage crew stuff. I was working out a lot, so I was able to move large things and be helpful. So I was like, I'm gonna go help them out. And while I was working the stage crew for my high school, one of the kids that was on the stage crew had this staff that was just like boom, and he was playing with it, and I was like, what is that? And he's like, oh, it's just this thing. And I was like, where did you get? That's gonna change my career. What you're holding in your hands right now is something I've never seen anybody do before.
But you need
it. It's so unique. I need this. And the Gambit thing was already, kind of moving along. So I was like, this is the last piece of this puzzle that I need is that. Where did you buy it? And he told me where he got it. So I ordered one immediately. And then I offered him money. I was like, I'll buy that from you. I have shows this weekend. I'll buy that off of you right now so I can use them. I can use it this weekend. And he was like, yeah, no problem. I'll just order another one. So I just gave him some money and he gave it to me. And I practiced nonstop with that thing, with that staff. To try to introduce it. The first time I actually ever tried to use it at a show, I was practicing all day. It was going well. And then in the back before my match, I tried to show somebody the trick, and it popped me. It got stuck on my finger, and it popped me in the eye. And I was stuck in New Jersey for 2 days because I couldn't drive because I had a corneal abrasion. It actually cut my eyeball when it struck me in the eye, but it didn't turn me off of it. I kept using it, and I perfected it. I mastered it, and I don't regret it at all. It was awful for a couple of months because my vision didn't go back to normal for a long time, but yeah, that was the final piece of the puzzle. So it wasn't on purpose, the Gambit reference, but when the pieces just fell into place, and I couldn't
so it wasn't
no.
on purpose, but when you found out that the Gambit thing kind of worked, you just played on it a bit more anyway. Because I don't blame you because it is such a cool.
Gambit's awesome.
Yeah, man, Gambit is. Everyone loves Gambit. He is a hero, but he's the anti-hero, and anti-heroes are always cool.
Well, I promise I will Google who Gambit is after this podcast.
There's a surprise. Jamie doesn't know who Gambit is.
Hey, speaking of Disney Plus, go ahead and watch the X-Men, the animated X-Men. I hadn't watched it before I got Disney Plus, but it's awesome. It's a great. The episodes aren't long, so it's great to just kind of put on and just.
The intro to the old X-Men cartoon, it's one of the best themes to any animated series. Legendary. But
I'm sorry, I had flashbacks to How I Met Your Mother then, and Ace just became Barney Stinson, so legendary. Sorry.
Yeah. So we do.
I think I'll order Disney Plus tonight. I haven't got Disney Plus. I'm going to get it tonight, and I'm going to watch. I'm going to watch Star Wars.
You can have one of my accounts.
You should get a free trial, so you won't have to
there we go.
right away.
Free is my favorite price.
So we do have one more question, this time from Twitter, from sltdwrestling.com, and they want to know, if he could be managed by anyone in wrestling history, who would it be?
Managed by anyone? Managed by anyone?
That's a good question.
Yeah, it's a great question. I don't know. I've always done really well on my own.
Yeah.
I've always done a great job of getting it done on my own. I don't think I need a manager by any means, but maybe maybe Sunny. How about Sunny in her prime? How about that?
Yeah. Okay. I didn't expect that, but okay.
That'd be a perfect fit.
Just because it fits with the Triple X division, you know?
Yeah. Kind of makes sense.
I was kind of thinking as well, like going old school for Bobby the Brain Heenan. I feel like you could be a modern day Mr. Perfect.
Oh, look at you, brown nose.
That's a good one too. Yeah, no, I cannot disagree with you there.
I'll tell you what, that is a good question though. I mean, do you think managers are something that need to come back in wrestling? Because they seem to have died out, and there's a few now that it seems are coming back. Do you think there's a place in wrestling nowadays for managers?
Yeah, I 100%. Because there's like a lot of people that I know. For me personally, at the beginning, I struggled with talking more than anything. Yeah. Not because I was afraid to talk in front of people, but just because I am such a thinker that it's hard for me to just say things. Yeah. I don't like to say anything before I think. I think before I speak, always. That's how I've always been. So it almost didn't come naturally for me at the beginning because I couldn't just rattle them off. I had to think about it. So I think that managers, yeah, absolutely. I mean, for anyone that has like just such a great ability look at Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar's career would have never been the same if not for Paul Heyman.
Absolutely.
His career, yeah. So a mouthpiece is never a bad thing, you know, and it can do nothing. I mean, if you do it right, you know, it can't do anything except for elevate, you know, both people. So I think, I think there's no reason managers can't come back, and it also, you know, it gives somebody else a job. Somebody who maybe has a passion for wrestling, but they can't get in there and do it themselves. They can still be a part of it and still be in the spotlight in some way. You know, if that's your talent, there's no reason your talent shouldn't be exploited.
Definitely, yeah. Like you said, with Brock Lesnar, we might not have had, whether or not you like Brock Lesnar or not, we might not have had one of the biggest superstars to come along in the last 20 years without Paul Heyman. And
not at all, because he can't talk on his own, you know, like, or, I mean, at least we don't know if he can anyway.
I mean, he's got like physical charisma, like when his movements in the ring can be charismatic, but I don't think he has the talking ability, if that makes any sense. Yeah.
And I think that even if he had the ability to talk, it adds to his character that he doesn't need to say anything.
Yeah,
he just executes. And someone else does the talking for him.
He's there to get paid and leave. And I think that kind of works for Brock because that might be who he really is. Who knows? But, I think it just works that he doesn't need to talk. I think it would have taken away a lot from the character if he did. It wouldn't have made him as intimidating because the fact that he was always so quiet, he just stood in the background, like looking menacing. Paul Heyman would do all the hyping. And it just worked.
Yeah.
I think that could work for a lot.
And you never know. He might have said something that was a little silly, and people would have just turned it off, and they would have never took him seriously again because he said something that was kind of silly, you know?
Or because we never heard Brock on the mic, we actually missed out on one of the greatest talkers in the wrestling business, in wrestling history, and we'll never know.
That's the flip side. That's the flip side. You never know.
But before we start to wrap things up, it's been absolutely awesome talking to you, and we'd love to get you back on again in the future, actually, just to see what you're doing when wrestling's back, like how things have changed for you when wrestling comes back, and follow up with that. Is there anything you'd like to plug? Usually I'd say what shows have you got coming up, but obviously it's Impact for you at the moment. Is there anything else you'd like to plug?
Impact is the only thing I am at a pass to do right now. So keep watching Impact, because like I said, I am capable of nothing short of greatness, and I will be the youngest world champion of all time. So witness that history as it happens, not after it happens. And then I guess I'll plug, pro wrestling tees. I've got myself a little store on there. You can get some nice shirts from, because my personal merch stock, it's difficult to ship worldwide. So, if you're in the UK and you're a UK fan, Pro Wrestling Tees is the place you got to go. Actually, let me just plug my social medias in that case. So my Instagram, my Twitter are both at @the_ace_Austin. If you look in the bio of either of those profiles, you'll find my link tree. My link tree has links to most of my social media. It has links to my YouTube channel, which needs to be updated, I must admit, but there is some old stuff on there. My YouTube channel, it has my Pro Wrestling Tees link. It has a link to a website called the Indie Connection, where they sell collector's edition Ace cards. You can get there, and then I think that's about it.
Usually, I'd ask you what your social medias and stuff are, but you've beaten me to it. You've done my job for me, so thank you. But
I gotta plug those. Let me see the shirt you're rocking there. Let me catch that. Red Dead?
Red Dead Joe Doering is a guy from All Japan.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a cool T-shirt. It's like a Red Dead style one. Yeah.
That's awesome. Are you into Red Dead at all? Have you played
Red
Dead
man,
or anything like
love
that?
it.
Me too. Me too. Love Red Dead. It took me a long time to beat the second one because, like I said, I didn't have much video game time prior to the quarantine. But once the quarantine started, I went hard at Red Dead and I finished it up.
Dude, it's such a beautiful game. I just like going out for a ride on my horse.
Jessica Havoc is a very good friend of mine, one of my best friends in wrestling, and she's got herself a Twitch stream. She plays Red Dead daily because she has the most ridiculous daily streak I've ever seen. On Red Dead Online, you have daily missions. She's going on like 150 days of daily missions. Like,
Jesus.
It's crazy. She's unbelievable.
I'll be checking that out, definitely.
So check out her Twitch stream.
I'll find the link and I'll put it in the description.
Yeah.
And
we're all fans of the Red Dead.
When it comes to you being the youngest Impact World Champion, I don't think it would be smart to bet against you. I can definitely see that happening this year or next. And I just want to say thank you for coming on. Hopefully you'll come back on in the future. And enjoy the rest of the day in the pool. Looks like you're having a great time. Very jealous.
I will.
And you've been Ace Austin. We've been Ringsiders. Thank you for joining.
Thank you, man.
Yeah, thank you. I had a lot of fun. I don't do these very often because I usually don't have time, but I've got nothing but time in quarantine now, so I've decided to do a couple of them, and you guys have been one of the most fun.